You've probably been told that focus is a matter of discipline, that if your mind wanders, it's because you're weak, unfocused, lazy. But what if that's not true? What if focus isn't force, but frequency? What if the reason you drift is not because you're broken, but because your consciousness is trying to protect you from something deeper? According to neuroscientist Karl Pribram, the human mind doesn't operate like a machine. It operates like a hologram. Every thought you have sends ripples into a vast quantum field, an invisible matrix that responds not to what you want, but to the coherence of your inner state. In this view, focus isn't just attention, it's vibration. It's a stable, energetic signal that shapes the very fabric of the reality you're living in. Focus, then, becomes a kind of spiritual lens, not something you try to force, but something you learn to tune. It's not about trying harder. It's about becoming more coherent, emotionally, mentally, energetically. When your inner world aligns, the external begins to bend. Joe Dispenza speaks of this as the portal to creation. He says that to focus is to train your brain and your heart to hold steady on a future not yet seen, while refusing to be seduced by the noise of the present moment. It's about anchoring in a new timeline, even when your senses scream otherwise. Focus, in this way, is not a task, it's a practice of presence, a sacred decision to remain faithful to the vision, especially when the current reality doesn't yet reflect it. Think of a magnifying glass. When the light is scattered, nothing happens. But when it's concentrated, it ignites. That's what the field responds to, not random sparks of desire, but focused beams of intention, charged with emotion, anchored in belief. And maybe that's what hurts the most when we're distracted. Not just that we lose time, but that we lose ourselves. That subtle ache of knowing you're meant for more, but feeling caught in a loop you can't seem to break. The pain of distraction isn't just cognitive, it's spiritual. It's the quiet suffering of a soul who remembers its purpose but keeps drifting away from it. This isn't about forcing your mind to behave. This is about learning how to return to the now, to return to the signal of who you really are. And once that happens, focus becomes natural, effortless, magnetic. Because focus isn't about willpower. Focus is about frequency. It's easy to believe that distraction is a flaw of willpower, that if you can't focus, it's because you're undisciplined, unfocused, not trying hard enough. But beneath that narrative, there's a deeper truth, one that doesn't blame, but reveals. Often distraction isn't a lack of strength. It's a subtle form of protection, a defense mechanism crafted by your nervous system to avoid the discomfort of presence. Because sometimes being fully here, fully in the now, means coming face to face with emotions we've buried, regrets, longings, insecurities, grief. And without realizing, we escape. Not because we're weak, but because the now doesn't always feel like a safe place to live in. Your mind begins to reach outward. It chases stimulation, noise, movement, anything to avoid stillness, because in that stillness, truth echoes. And the truth at first can feel overwhelming, but this escape has a cost. When you abandon the present moment, you create a split inside. Your intention wants one thing, but your vibration signals something else entirely. And the quantum field doesn't respond to what you say you want. It responds to what you actually embody. The incoherence between desire and presence becomes the real block. Not your ability to concentrate, but your inability to stay. This is where unbreakable focus begins, not with more effort, but with more safety. With turning the present into a place you can actually rest inside. With making peace with the now, so you no longer need to run from it, so you no longer need to hide behind scrolling, noise, or endless doing. Distraction, then, isn't your enemy. It's a messenger, a vibration echoing from unresolved parts of you, not to punish you, but to protect you, not to shame you, but to invite you to look closer, to feel deeper, to become whole again. Because when the present becomes safe, focus becomes natural. We've been taught to focus as if it were a battle, to clench the mind, to tighten the body, to strain the attention like someone trying to hold water with closed fists. But focus doesn't respond to pressure. Focus responds to resonance. Every time you try to force your attention, you amplify instability. The more you push, the more your energy fractures. The more you grip, the more it slips. Focus is not about fighting the mind. It's about softening into alignment. It's not a clenched jaw. It's a quiet tuning. Brilliant minds don't control their attention through tension. They harmonize with their vision. They feel into what they want to create and allow that vibration to guide them, like a tuning fork finding its match. Focus, for them, isn't a task. It's a natural byproduct of emotional alignment. The quantum field doesn't respond to frantic effort. It responds to inner stability, to coherence between thought and feeling, between heart and mind. When you try to focus under stress, you're broadcasting lack of presence, lack of ease, lack of trust. And the field mirrors that back to you. This is the vibrational mistake many don't see. Trying to control the focus with fear only reinforces the frequency of resistance. It's like trying to tune an instrument while shaking. The more you tremble, the more dissonant the sound becomes. True focus is gentle, silent, magnetic. It draws you in without force. It holds you not because you're trying, but because something in you knows that this is the right place to be. So perhaps the question isn't, how do I focus? But rather, what do I need to feel safe enough to stop forcing? Because when you stop pushing, you begin to tune. There's a kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from working hard, but from working disconnected, from pouring your energy into things that don't carry your truth, from trying to sustain focus on what doesn't nourish you. Focus without soul is a fire without fuel. It flickers, it fights, and eventually it fades. You may have felt it. The struggle to stay concentrated on tasks that feel hollow. The constant effort to discipline your mind around something that simply doesn't speak to your heart. And in that silence, your energy fragments. Not because you're weak, but because your spirit is absent. There is no magnetism in what you don't love. Sustainable focus is not built on duty, it's built on meaning. When something symbolizes your future self, when it represents who you are becoming, your attention finds its own way there. You don't have to force it. You're pulled. You're drawn. Because what you're doing is no longer just a task, it's an expression of identity. Every time you direct your attention towards something sacred to you, you're making an offering, a quiet ritual of devotion, a declaration to the quantum field. This matters. And the field responds, not to what you're doing, but to the energy with which you do it. That's why focus dies when tied to goals that aren't yours, goals that don't speak your language, visions that were never born in your soul. Your energy knows when it's being borrowed. It knows when it's out of place. And it will withdraw, gently but firmly. So meaning isn't a luxury, it's the foundation. Without it, attention becomes a burden. With it, attention becomes a prayer. And that prayer sustains. True focus isn't built in the mind alone. It's cultivated across dimensions, neural, symbolic, and energetic. Each one like a layer of alignment, each one a thread that, when woven together, forms the fabric of your reality. Focus, in its deepest expression, is not just a mental act. It is a ritual. The first level is neural. The brain must learn to quiet its noise, not by force, but by removing overstimulation. In a world addicted to dopamine and distraction, silence becomes medicine, repetition becomes training, simplicity becomes strength. When you reduce the noise, intention can finally be heard. The second level is symbolic. The mind thrives on meaning, Images, metaphors, archetypes, these are not just poetic devices. They are anchors. They hold your intention in place, even when the world tries to pull you away. Neville Goddard understood this. He spoke of living the scene already realized, feeling the texture of a future memory, until it becomes more familiar than the present. That's not imagination, that's energetic architecture. The third level is vibrational, emotional. The body must feel the future as if it were already happening, because the field doesn't respond to what you want, it responds to what you are. When your emotional state matches the vision, a kind of resonance is created. And in that resonance, the quantum responds like a mirror, precise, immediate, and alive. These three levels are not separate. They are simultaneous. They converge in practice, in presence, in the quiet rituals of daily life. The way you breathe, the way you sit, the way you return to the vision, even when nothing has changed outside. Because when neural clarity meets symbolic depth and emotional coherence, the field listens, and reality begins to shift. Imagine two people carrying the same inner light. One scatters it, the other directs it. One dilutes their energy in 1,000 directions, the other concentrates it in one. The difference is not brightness, it's precision. This is the metaphor of the laser, a beam of light so focused, so coherent, that it can cut through solid matter. Not because it's aggressive, but because it's unified. That's what happens when the mind and heart come into alignment, when intention stops being divided, when emotion and thought speak the same language in the same direction. Distraction spreads your energy thin. It leaks through open tabs, unfinished thoughts, unprocessed feelings. But focus, real focus, is a convergence, a magnetic narrowing, not born of tension, but of truth. It's the moment your entire being says yes to one thing. The laser doesn't fight to shine, it simply stops scattering. And in that stillness, it becomes unstoppable. This is what it means to create with precision, not to force reality open, but to cut through illusion, cleanly, silently, and with purpose. Your biology is not separate from your focus. It listens, it absorbs, it adapts. Bruce Lipton reminds us that the environment that shapes our cells is not just external, it's internal. It's the emotional and vibrational atmosphere we sustain inside. Every time you focus on a future with emotional coherence, your body begins to shift. It starts to signal that this new future isn't just possible, it's already happening. Your chemistry changes, your hormones adjust, your nervous system responds, because your body doesn't know the difference between what's imagined and what's real. It only knows what you feel consistently. And when your focus is sustained, the message becomes clear. This is who I am now. This is why focus is not just mental discipline. It is vibrational devotion, a daily commitment to remain faithful to the future you were designed to live. And that fidelity isn't measured by how hard you try, but by how deeply you embody it. Lipton teaches us that beliefs are not just thoughts. They are electromagnetic patterns encoded in the subconscious. And Neville Goddard completes the circle by saying, "You remain trapped in the old world only because your emotional focus is still there. It's not your circumstances that hold you back. It's your vibrational loyalty to what no longer serves you." So the work is not to force your mind forward, but to reclaim your focus as an act of remembrance, to return to the frequency of your truth again and again until it becomes natural, until it becomes effortless. Because focus is not control, focus is communion, and when you become loyal to your future with your whole being, reality has no choice but to respond.